Okay, I have quite a few articles for you today, all of 6. And I'm going to try to do this in chronological order. So, let us start with. Let me just see if this is big enough for me to read. Nope. Okay, so let us start from the government executive. And that article is Trump administration begins crackdown on federal employees' use of leave for voting. Because as we all know, you can only take leave for certain reasons. You couldn't possibly just take leave and do whatever the hell you want to do. Because leave is your personal time. There shouldn't be strings attached to administrative leave. Agencies have begun notifying employees they can no longer take administrative leave for election-related activities, which again, leave is leave. If you have personal leave, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want. You shouldn't be told you can only use it for this reason. That's why it's called leave, personal leave, as opposed to, say, vacation or sick leave. Many employers don't make the distinction anymore because people are going to use their vacation time for sick leave or vice versa. That's just the way it is, so why constrain people based on leave? If you need to take leave, you need to take leave. With some key primary elections at the state level occurring in the coming weeks, the Trump administration has begun notifying employees they can no longer use paid administrative leave to vote. The reminder so far sent out at least to various agencies within the Agriculture Department complies with an executive order President Trump signed on his first day in office. That order revoked a bevy of previously issued presidential actions, including an order President Biden signed early in his term to allow the leave category for federal employees looking to vote. In March, Trump signed another executive order calling on agency heads to cease all agency actions implementing Biden's order and within 90 days lay out what steps they have taken to implement the new directive. Effective immediately, Forest Service employees are not authorized to use administrative leave to vote or participate in voting-related activities, said a message received by employees and obtained by government executive. Other USDA employees reported being told verbally they could no longer use that form of paid time off for voting. The Interior Department has apparently removed implementation guidance on the leave for voting policy from its website. Which, again, why are we telling people what they can do with their personal time? Now, it sounds like that they can take other types of leave, but what the heck? Leave is leave. Let them use it for what they want. Like I said, if you want to go on vacation and you don't have enough vacation time, but you do have some sick leave that would make up for that, fine, go ahead and use that. That's why a lot of employers just don't even bother with sick leave or vacation and just put it all together in leave. Because, okay, this is your personal time off. This is PTO. You do with it what you want to do with it. As long as you use up only the amount of time you have, what is the big deal? All right. The Forest Service told employees they are still allowed to request taking their own personal vacation time for voting purposes. The Office of Personnel Management in 2022 began requiring agencies to provide federal employees up to 4 hours of administrative leave to vote in federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial elections, which was available for use both on election day and during early voting. Additionally, agencies had to provide an additional 4 hours of paid leave to employees who serve as election judges or observers. The time off was subject to a determination by the agency that the employee can be relieved of duty during that specific period of time requested by the employee without significantly impairing mission essential operations, OPM said at the time. In 2022, federal workers employed by several agencies reported difficulty in getting their employees to honor the policy. Ahead of the 2024 election, however, then acting OPM Director Rob Shriver issued a memorandum reminding agency heads of the new voting leave rules. Primary elections for the state legislatures, our governors in New Jersey and Virginia, will be held next month. All right, so that is the end of that article. So it's kind of dickish that people have to take vacation time to go vote. This is actually a good reason why we should just make voting day a federal holiday. Because if voting day is a federal holiday, you don't have to worry about, do I get 4 hours of administrative leave to go vote? Do I have to take vacation? Screw it. It's a day off. So you can do whatever the hell you want with it. All right. So that is the end of that article. So let's move on to Forbes. And this one is titled, Elon Musk is $170 billion richer since endorsing Trump. And if you're thinking it has anything to do with, say, what he did with Doge, you would be correct. As Musk's full-time Doge duties wrap up, he returns to a business empire flush with opportunities and fewer federal probes, but with reputational challenges. Yes, because basically, especially in Europe, people do not want to buy Teslas anymore because of all the crap Elon has been doing. So let's go on with this article. On Tuesday, during a virtual interview with the Qatar Economic Forum, Elon Musk said he plans to scale back his political giving. I'm going to do a lot less in the future. I think I've done enough, said Musk, who was the largest individual donor in the 2024 election cycle, shelling out $290 million in support of Donald Trump. If I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I do not currently see a reason. No wonder. In just 4 months' time, the Trump administration has already given Musk plenty of return on his investment. On the regulatory front, his businesses face less scrutiny as some government investigations into them have been closed, stalled, or thrown into disarray, thanks in part to Musk's own efforts with Doge to defund and gut multiple federal agencies. His companies, particularly SpaceX, are positioned to receive billions of dollars in fresh government contracts. On the global stage, Musk is striking deals and gaining approval to operate in foreign jurisdictions, often with the tacit or explicit support of the Trump administration. And I actually did an article about this, about how the Trump administration is using Starlink as getting countries to use Starlink as a requisite to having tariffs dropped, because that's not sus at all. You aren't supposed to be using your position to make a private company richer. That's not what you're there for. Then there are the personal benefits. Musk is far richer now than he was before endorsing Trump. His net worth stands at $419 billion, approximately $170 billion more than what it was on July 15th, just 2 days after Trump survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, after which Musk endorsed him. Tesla's stock price has fallen by 20% since Trump's return to the White House in late January, but remains 35% higher than in mid-July 2024. SpaceX is now valued at $350 billion, nearly double what it was around the time of Musk's endorsement. But if he keeps blowing up rocket ships, God only knows how long that'll be. And his third largest company, XAI Holdings, which now includes his social media platform X and artificial intelligence startup XAI, was valued at $113 billion in its recent merger, more than triple what the two firms were worth a year ago. Critics of Trump and Musk say that Musk's involvement in Doge and relationship with the president is benefiting him financially. No shit. The nature of Mr. Musk's business, as well as their substantial earnings from government contracts, mean that he is deeply entangled in the regulatory functions of the government he is now empowered to shape, concludes an April report authored by the Democratic minority members in the U.S. House of Representatives. President Trump could not have chosen a person more prone to conflicts of interest. But yet they say, oh, there's no conflict, and if there was, Elon would recuse himself. Bullshit. Trump denied this. If there's a conflict, then we won't let him get near it. The president said in the Oval Office in February. Musk has been also denied having conflicts of interest and said he has no role in SpaceX's applications for government contracts. Sure. The suggestion that Elon Musk's companies have somehow benefited from his time at the White House is baseless and lacks journalistic integrity, said Harrison Fields, Trump's principal deputy press secretary, in a statement emailed to Forbes. Elon's companies have faced arson, vandalism, gunfire, cyber attacks, boycotts, and personal attacks, unprecedented for any American businessman or company. As stated numerous times, the president will not tolerate any conflicts of interest, and Elon Musk continues to adhere to applicable ethics guidelines in his mission to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay. The reason Elon is under attack, and by that I mean his companies are under attack and Teslas are being destroyed, is not because of his conflicts of interest. Though that, I'm sure, pisses a lot of people off. It's the fact that he's a fucking Nazi and that he's doing terrible things, even if it doesn't benefit him. So, yeah. Indeed, not everything has been rosy for Musk under Trump. The administration's tariff regime, including 30% tariffs on imports from China, will likely increase supply chain costs for Tesla, SpaceX, and XAI. Sales of Tesla vehicles have been slumping across all major markets, in large part due to growing consumer backlash against Musk's activities with the Department of Government Efficiency. A Reuters Ipsos poll of Americans conducted this month found that 58% of respondents held an unfavorable opinion of Musk, compared to 39% who held a favorable one. Peaceful protesters, as well as vandalizers and arsonists, have targeted Tesla dealerships and showrooms. Musk, who insists that Tesla's sales are rebounding, told the interviewer in Qatar that he's taken the blowback personally. Oh, really? Is that why you can't function without ketamine? The work Mr. Musk has done around Doge has done considerable damage to the Tesla brand, both domestically and internationally, and therefore has cost Mr. Musk dearly, says Gil Luria, a technology analyst at D.A. Davidson. The stain on the brand is almost unprecedented in automotive industry. Even so, Trump has given Musk plenty to smile about. In January, Trump signed an executive order that hampered the Department of Labor's Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, which has been investigating alleged workplace discrimination at Tesla's factories. As a result, that investigation into Tesla has been halted, the San Francisco Standard reported. In March, the president memorably encouraged Americans to buy Tesla cars during a sales pitch from the White House lawn, which, number one, not the president's job to sell other people's shit. Of course, it's not his job to sell his shit either, but that's a different story. And secondly, hilariously, he called it Tesla, which I thought was awesome. So he doesn't even know the name of the company. All right. The all-important questions for Tesla's future growth prospects is the Trump administration's stance towards partially and fully autonomous cars. Last year, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened 2 investigations. The first into Tesla's full self-driving features. The second into Tesla's remote self-driving features, which remain ongoing, according to NHTSA's investigations dashboard and a spokesperson for the agency. So, another thing I find funny is that the very people who don't give a shit about the environment and think that climate change is a hoax are now going out to buy Teslas, buy electric vehicles, simply because Dear Leader told them to. It is just absolutely bonkers. We totally live in the upside down. All right. Last month, Transportation Department eliminated a requirement for automakers with partial and full self-driving features to report certain types of non-fatal crashes. Yeah, nothing bad could happen with that. The rule change benefits Tesla and will hurt Waymo, the fully autonomous vehicle company owned by Alphabet, which is currently active in several cities and which Tesla aims to compete with, says Wedbush Securities analyst Dan Ives. A spokesperson for the Transportation Department denies that the rule change benefits Tesla and says that the agency made the change so that it could focus on crash types that contribute more significantly to the agency's safety work. Right, because if you just get maimed in a crash, that's just too bad. But you're not dead, so why should we care? Right. That makes so much sense. Musk is seeking to compete with Waymo by rolling out Tesla's fully autonomous vehicles at scale. Earlier this week, in an interview with CNBC, Musk says he expects there to be hundreds of thousands of full self-driving Teslas in the U.S. by next year. That's unlikely. Waymo has been rolling out its cars for several years and has deployed 1,500 of them across 4 U.S. cities, with plans to add 2,000 more next year. Plus, there has been missed deadlines and safety issues with Tesla's self-driving cars, as Forbes reported earlier this month. but the Trump administration appears supportive of Musk's goals. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy visited Tesla's Gigafactory near Austin this week to meet with Musk and, in his words, see firsthand the future of autonomous vehicles. We estimate the AI and autonomous opportunity is worth at least $1 trillion alone for Tesla, said Ives, whose firm Wedbush upgraded Tesla's price target to $500. It closed Friday at $339. We fully expect under a Trump White House, these key initiatives will now get fast-tracked as a federal regulatory spiderweb that Musk and co. have encountered over the past few years around full self-driving autonomous clears significantly under Trump. SpaceX is also finding reprieve with the new regime. The Department of Justice dropped a lawsuit over SpaceX's refusal to hire certain immigrants. The National Labor Relations Board, which has sued SpaceX in January 2024 over the alleged wrongful dismissal of 8 employees who had written an open letter criticizing Musk, which is obviously punishable by death, probably to Musk, moved to terminate its own lawsuit last month in a joint filing with SpaceX that questioned whether the agency has jurisdiction to pursue its original claims. A former chairman of the NLRB disagrees with the decision. This abrupt change in course is highly unusual and a huge setback for SpaceX workers, representing yet another successful attempt by SpaceX to delay and obstruct its workers' efforts to get a voice on the job, says Lauren McFerrin, now a senior fellow at the Century Foundation, a think tank. SpaceX was already a major U.S. contractor before Trump's return to the White House, and now is primed to receive more federal dollars. SpaceX currently holds nearly $16 billion of active contracts with the federal government, which includes $6 billion awarded by the Department of Defense last month, according to the April report from the Democratic minority members in the U.S. House of Representatives. Musk's rocket maker is reportedly a frontrunner to help build Trump's desired Golden Dome defense shield in what would likely be a multi-billion-dollar contract with the Pentagon, as the project is expected to cost $175 billion over 3 years. At this time, the department has no announcements regarding future contracts associated with the Golden Dome effort, a senior defense official told Forbes in an emailed statement. Now, for those who don't know what the Golden Dome is, Trump saw that Israel has the Iron Dome, and first off, he's obsessed with gold, so Golden Dome. And secondly, he wants the same technology used for the U.S. Forget that the U.S. is far bigger than Israel, nor are they surrounded by enemies like Israel is, but in Trump's deranged head, we actually are surrounded by enemies. And because it only deals with the continental U.S., it doesn't include Hawaii or Alaska. So either Trump doesn't know those states are part of the U.S., or he just doesn't give a shit. One of the two. Either one is eminently doable. All right. SpaceX does have the potential to get government contracts, and therefore Mr. Musk's relationship with administration is helpful, said Gil Loria, the analyst at D.A. Davidson. Starlink, which accounts for roughly 2/3 of SpaceX's estimated $13.1 billion in revenue last year, is getting a direct assist from Trump officials. The State Department and U.S. embassies have pushed nations to clear hurdles for U.S. satellite companies, often mentioning Starlink by name. while Secretary of State Marco Rubio has increasingly instructed officials to push for regulatory approvals for Starlink, the Washington Post reported earlier this month. In smaller African countries, U.S. diplomats have pressed governments to fast-track licenses for Starlink and arrange conversations between company employees and foreign leaders, ProPublica reported last week. And I think I did a video on that. Closer to home, Starlink could secure a new contract from the Federal Aviation Administration. The agency began a trial with Starlink as part of an initial testing period, with the possibility that Starlink will help contribute to a long-term infrastructure upgrade for aviation safety, SpaceX said in March. A spokesperson for the Department of Transportation confirmed that the FAA is testing Starlink for facilities in Alaska, Oklahoma City, and Atlantic City. To update our telecommunications systems, the agencies will work with multiple companies and multiple technologies. There is no one technology solution. That is why we are testing not only satellites, but also fiber and wireless to ensure safety, the spokesperson said in an emailed statement. Meanwhile, xAI, Musk's artificial intelligence startup, which powers the large language model Grok, is positioned itself for government contracts as it builds a government-focused business with the help of data it gets from government agencies, the information reported this week. Musk's Doge is already using Grok in its government work and pushed staff at the Department of Homeland Security to use it, Reuters reported Friday. The DHS denied to Reuters that Doge was pushing its staff to use any particular tools or products. xAI did not respond to requests for comment. Now, the thing I do love about Grok is it's so smart that it actually trashes Musk whenever it can. Even when Musk tries, which we find out Musk does not know how to do code, because he tried to change Grok's answers so it would be sympathetic to the white genocide in South Africa, and made it so obvious that somebody attempted to mess with Grok's programming and did a piss poor job of it. Just in case you people think that he actually is a computer programmer along with an automotive genius or whatever you think he is. He's nothing. He's none of that. All right. Musk's AI company, which is building a massive supercomputer in Memphis, could also benefit from a weakened Environmental Protection Agency, which is embarking on what it calls the biggest regulatory action in U.S. history. Last fall, the EPA began looking into xAI and its use of temporary gas turbines, which it has been accused of operating without proper permits in violation of the Clean Air Act. A spokesperson for the EPA told Forbes in an emailed statement that they are still reviewing the matter. Because, again, that's what Doge was doing. It wasn't cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. It was just making things easier for Elon to do business. And if he harms people and the environment in the process, oh well. Even Musk's smaller companies are seemingly benefiting. In January, as part of a broader purge of inspectors general across federal agencies, Trump fired the Inspector General of the Agriculture Department, Phyllis Fong, whose office has been investigating Neuralink, Musk's controversial brain plant startup, for alleged mistreatment of animals, per Reuters, which reports the probe was ongoing as of January. The USDA did not respond to requests for comment. Musk's tunneling startup, The Boring Company, has not yet completed any significant projects, apart from one tunnel in Las Vegas, since its 2017 founding, but is in talks with the Federal Railroad Administration about participating in an $8.5 billion Amtrak project, the New York Times reported. A spokesperson for the Department of Transportation said no decision has been made on bids and that Amtrak, in coordination with DOT, will follow standard procedures for bidding out contracting and subcontracting. During Trump's visit to the Middle East last week, Musk tagged along, and business deals followed. Saudi Arabia agreed to introduce Starlink to its maritime and aviation sectors, and Abu Dhabi, which announced a tunneling project with the Boring Company in February, said it would be performing a clinical trial with Neuralink. How can people hear this and not think there's corruption going on? Back in the White House on Wednesday, Musk joined Trump for a live-streamed meeting with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. During the sit-down, Trump chided his counterpart for failing to stop the alleged genocide of white Afrikaners, a claim for which there is no evidence, which happens to be one of Musk's pet issues. I don't want to get Elon involved. That's all I have to do. Get him into another thing, said Trump during his Oval Office performance, to the laughter of those gathered. This is what Elon wanted. Of course he thinks that there's a white genocide going on, because when he was growing up, he and Daddy got rich off of a mine in South Africa during apartheid. So, of course, he thinks there's a white genocide going on because they can't shit on black people anymore. Anyway, so that is the end of that article. Now, this one is from 404. A Texas cop searched license plate cameras nationwide for a woman who got an abortion. The sheriff said the woman self-administered the abortion and her family were concerned for her safety, so authorities searched through flock cameras. Experts are still concerned that a cop in a state where abortion is illegal can search cameras in others where it's a human right. Earlier this month, authorities in Texas performed a nationwide search of more than 83,000 automatic license plate readers, or ALPR cameras, while looking for a woman who they said had a self-administered abortion, including cameras in states where abortion is legal, such as Washington and Illinois, according to multiple data sets obtained by 404 Media. Now, I hope I don't have to explain just how scary this is, that people in a state where abortion is illegal think that they can spy on states where abortion is illegal just so they can find the one person who had an abortion, because somehow crossing state lines to do something legal in that state is somehow a crime in your state. Again, like I've mentioned before, we could take this further. The U.S. is the only country where the drinking age is 21. Everywhere else it's 18. Well, at least 18. So, if a 18-year-old were to go to Canada, or a 19-year-old, or a 20-year-old were to go to Canada and have a drink, would they be arrested when they come back to the U.S.? Of course not. That's ridiculous because they were in a country where it was legal. Same thing here. She went to a state where abortion is legal. Not, why is this a problem? I mean, it's one thing to police the people within your state, but now you're policing people outside of your state? How can anyone consider that okay? The news shows in stark terms how police in one state are able to take the ALPR technology made by a company called Flock and usually marketed to individual communities to stop carjackings or find missing people, and turn it into a tool for finding people who have had abortions. In this case, the sheriff told 404 Media the family was worried for the woman's safety, and so authorities used Flock in an attempt to locate her. But health surveillance experts, they still had issues with the nationwide search. Oh no. Well, I'm going to finish reading the rest of the free part. So, all right, that's basically all I get for the free version. Normally they show it at the very top that, oh yeah, this isn't free. You have to sign up. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't read the rest of that article. Sorry about that, but again, that is just now. If this is true that the family was concerned for her safety, this is the year 2025. Are you saying that there was absolutely no way of contacting her? She didn't have a phone. She didn't have her computer, so you couldn't like FaceTime or Zoom or whatever. I find it hard to believe that the family was concerned for her safety. Now, maybe her family are anti-abortion. That's entirely possible. They're probably anti-choice. That's entirely a possibility. But don't give me the bullshit that they were concerned for her safety. Because, again, it's 2025. Everyone has a location device on them. It's called a smartphone. You can ping the damn smartphone. You can call the person. You can text them. It isn't that hard to make sure that somebody is okay. All right, so let's move on to my essay, which is my San Antonio. Children zip-tied at San Antonio Immigration Court in new crackdown. The children were between the ages of 9 and 12. I'm sorry, zip-tied? That's kidnapping shit. Federal agencies do not use zip ties. What the hell? At least 3 migrant children were taken into custody and restrained with zip ties at the San Antonio Immigration Court, located at 800 De La Rosa Street, on Thursday, May 29th, according to multiple sources. The incident was captured on video by an immigration attorney who then shared the footage with attendees of an immigration law conference being held this week at the Grand Hyatt San Antonio Riverwalk Hotel by the Catholic Legal Immigration Network Incorporated, or Clinic. Clinic is an immigration law advocacy group that provides training and support to more than 400 Catholic and community-based immigration legal aid organizations, according to their website. The children, 2 boys and a girl, who appeared to be between the ages of 9 and 12 years old, were detained and zip-tied along with adults who appeared to be relatives after an immigration judge had dismissed their case, according to Caroline Rivera, an immigration attorney who serves as a federal advocate and liaison for Clinic. That dismissal should have meant they were no longer subject to removal proceedings, Rivera said. Not only is the detention worrisome, but now we're at an extra level of worrisome of why are children being zip-tied and traumatized by this, Rivera said. Guillermo Hernandez III, a San Antonio-based immigration attorney, also confirmed to my essay that the children were arrested and placed in zip ties Thursday morning. Like Rivera, Hernandez said the sort of treatment of children is something new. We've never seen them detain family units, children like this, and I think it's part of this administration to round up as many immigrants as possible, Hernandez said. We have not seen this before, and I think the point is to instill fear and kind of be cruel about this process. But it's unclear why the children were zip-tied during their detention or why they were detained at all. An email sent to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, the federal agency tasked with enforcing immigration law, did not yield an immediate response. This is just, and they're trying to be very cautious. It's like, oh, it's kind of like this, kind of like that. No, not kind of. The arrest of the children comes a day after reports that agents dressed in plain clothes with nothing to identify them as federal immigration officials were arresting people as they emerged from the immigration courthouse. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. They've uppitied the quota of daily detentions now. They want ICE to detain like 3,000 people a day. I'm sorry, how hardcore mega do you have to be, or how much under a rock do you have to live to realize that there aren't that many criminals in the U.S. illegally? That's just not how this works. Or who are immigrants, for that matter. KSAT reported on Wednesday, May 28th, that its crews observed the two charter buses parked outside the immigration court, where witnesses saw agents detaining people as they left the court. But Hernandez said the courthouse arrests first began in San Antonio last Thursday. And why the hell are we plainclothes? I heard a former head of ICE suggest that it's because they don't want their families to go to be in danger because they're enforcing these policies. And it's like, well, that's just too damn bad. Should your families be attacked? No, they should not. But how is this better? Now you look like you're fucking kidnappers as opposed to ICE agents. How is this an improvement? It's unclear if those agents or the ones who took the children into custody on Thursday work for ICE. Rivera said when clinic-affiliated officials asked the agents to identify themselves, they replied they were FBI. So now we're fucking lying. They're claiming that they aren't. Maybe they figured, well, these guys aren't deportable anymore, so let's say we're FBI. Or they just didn't want to admit that they're ICE. But either way, what is stopping regular people from claiming they're FBI or that they're ICE and disappearing people and doing God knows what. If federal agents are no longer feeling the need to identify themselves or wear a uniform, they can just act like kidnappers. While the FBI does not normally tackle immigration enforcement, that has begun to change under the second Trump administration. Just this week, NBC News reported on a policy shift requiring FBI field offices around the country to reassign significant portions of their resources toward immigration. Right. Because it's not like the FBI has anything better to do. It's not like they have hardened criminals to go after. No, we need to have them deport supposed gang members, while Trump then turns around and pardons gang members who are homegrown. Yeah, that makes sense. The FBI San Antonio field office oversees federal law enforcement across 17 counties in South Texas, including its headquarters in Bexar County. But it also maintains 6 satellite offices that span 42 counties from Waco in central Texas down to Brownsville in the Rio Grande Valley. The Trump administration has also substantially expanded its policy on the expedited removal of migrants who have been in the United States for less than 2 years, something permissible under the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, or IIRIRA. But the policy has been limited several times in the decades since IIRIRA became law, such as only being applied to migrants apprehended within 100 miles of a land border. President Donald Trump expanded its implementation during his first presidential term before the policy was again limited by former President Joe Biden. On January 24th of this year, the Trump administration again expanded the expedited removal policy. That rescission also undid a Biden-era prohibition on arresting migrants at so-called sensitive places such as churches, schools, hospitals, and courthouses. The matter is currently mired in litigation, but until the courts sort it out, the public will continue to see immigration agents arresting people in places that have traditionally been off limits, something that will stoke fear, Rivera said, which is the fucking point. Because of that policy change, we're seeing what's happening now. It's ICE in courtrooms, so that's going to create fear around people. That is going to have an effect on the individuals that are seeking asylum, Rivera said. For the experienced immigration attorney turned immigration law advocate, seeing children restrained by zip ties is disturbing, and it's something she's only seen happen under Trump. It's shocking. It's not how we want to portray ourselves, our country. It's just not right, Rivera said. Okay, so that's the end of that article. So let's move on to The Guardian. State Department ramps up Trump anti-immigration agenda with new remigration office. Existing bureau that helps with settling people in U.S. would become new agency overseeing deportations. The State Department is seeking to create an Office of Remigration as part of a restructuring of the U.S. diplomatic service to facilitate Donald Trump's right-wing anti-immigration policies. The plan would, in effect, repurpose the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, or PRM, which sought to manage and facilitate the flow of people into the U.S. under previous administrations, into a bureau meant to help deport immigrants from the country. A congressional notification from the State Department obtained by The Guardian said the office would be involved in repatriation tracking, would actively facilitate the voluntary return of migrants to other countries, and would work with the Department of Homeland Security and other law enforcement to advance the president's immigration agenda. Reflecting core administration priorities, these offices will be substantially reorganized to shift focus towards supporting the administration's efforts to return illegal aliens to their country of origin or legal status, the document read. The overhaul is part of a broader restructuring of the State Department under its Secretary Marco Rubio to create a more agile department, better equipped to promote America's interests and keep Americans safe across the world. Not sure how that'll work, but okay. Under the plan, which was submitted to Congress this week, the State Department would eliminate or consolidate more than 300 offices and bureaus, leading to the firing or reduction in force of more than 3,400 employees. The firings would not target members of consular affairs or law enforcement and other key roles of state. The administration this week ordered U.S. embassies to stop scheduling appointments for student visas in connection with plans to expand social media vetting of applicants. The Supreme Court on Friday allowed Trump to revoke the legal status of more than 500,000 people from countries including Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, under a program meant to protect them from economic and political turmoil in their home countries. Right, because he doesn't care if brown people get killed. The charge against migration has been led by Stephen Miller, the combative aide to the president who has railed against programs that allow migrants and refugees into the country. Remigration has become a buzzword for the global far right, with European nationalist movements such as Alternative für Deutschland brushing off allegations of racism to promote flashy ad campaigns depicting mass deportations of migrants. Donald Trump has embraced the term in September, saying he would immediately end the migrant invasion of America, and referring to his presidential rival in last year's election, return Kamala's illegal migrants to their home countries, also known as remigration. The PRM has been a conservative target under the Trump administration because of its role in resettling immigrants to the U.S. and in distributing grants to groups they say promote migration. In an article last September for the American Conservative, Philip Lindman, the chair of the conservative Ben Franklin Fellowship, said it was past time for a complete overhaul of the state's PRM bureau. Members of BFF have occupied prominent roles in the State Department under Rubio, pointing to a conservative vision for remaking the U.S. diplomacy and its apparatus. It is remarkable how many well-informed conservative foreign policy strategists have never even heard of PRM, wrote Linderman. Even those who closely follow immigration and border issues rarely understand the role of PRM plays in accommodation and promoting the worldwide movement of illegal migrants. Several people at PRM told The Guardian after Trump's election that they expected it could be shut down entirely. Instead, Rubio's plan would reassign diplomats who work in the agency's Office of Western Hemisphere Affairs and Office of International Migration to staff the new Office of Remigration. Okay, so that is the end of that article. So we have one article left. And this one is from NBC News. North Korea has deployed thousands of troops to help Russia terrorize Ukraine, report finds. I mean, it's great that they're saying the quiet part out loud, that this isn't about anything but terrorizing Ukraine. So I guess that's refreshing. All right. The findings from members of the United Nations reveal a myriad of unlawful activities and expose Moscow's reliance on the isolated regime. Russia has deployed thousands of North Korean soldiers and weaponry to terrorize Ukraine, according to a new report by members of the United Nations, which reveals a myriad of unlawful activities and exposes Moscow's reliance on the isolated regime. The Multilateral Sanctions Monitoring Team, or MSMT, comprising 11 UN members, states including the US, the United Kingdom, and Japan, said that Kim Jong-un's regime supplied over 11,000 troops, at least 100 ballistic missiles, and as many as 9 million rounds of mixed artillery and multiple rocket launcher ammunition in 2024. This unlawful cooperation contributed to Moscow's ability to increase its missile attacks against Ukrainian cities, including targeted strikes on critical civilian infrastructure. The report, published Thursday, said it also estimated that North Korea had deployed an additional 3,000 troops to Russia between January and March 2025. Moscow, the report said, is reciprocating by supporting Pyongyang's ballistic missile programs, leading to improvements in missile guidance performance. Russia is believed to have supplied North Korea with air defense equipment, anti-aircraft missiles, as well as advanced electronic warfare equipment, it added. The evidence shows that North Korea and Russia had engaged in numerous violations of United Nations Security Council resolutions, including arms transfers, Russian training of North Korean forces, and supplying North Korea with refined petroleum beyond UNSC limits, the MSMT said. At least for the foreseeable future, North Korea and Russia intend to continue and further deepen their military cooperation in contravention of relevant UN Security Council resolutions, it said. North Korea confirmed for the first time in April that its troops were fighting alongside Russian forces in the war against Ukraine, saying that they had helped Moscow take back control of the Kursk region. Kim Jong-un ordered the troops' deployment under a mutual defense pact that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed in June 2024. North Korea's Central Military Commission said in a statement that it was carried by state-run news agency KCNA. The treaty includes a pledge of mutual defense if either country is attacked. The statement said the operation to regain control of Kursk had been victoriously concluded, and that it was an honor to have an alliance with such a powerful state as the Russian Federation. They who fought for justice are all heroes and representatives of the honor of the motherland, Kim was quoted as saying. Putin said in April that North Korea had acted on a sense of solidarity, justice, and genuine comradeship. Both North Korea and Russia have denied any transfer of arms. The MSMT report arrives as Russian missile and drone strikes continue across Ukraine, amid uncertainty over whether Kyiv diplomats will participate in a new round of peace talks proposed by Moscow for early next week in Istanbul. Moscow said it's ready for peace talks while the fighting goes on and wants to discuss what it calls the war's root causes, including its demands Ukraine cede more territory and be disarmed and barred from military alliances with the West. Seriously? We're still pretending that that's a thing? The cede more territory, that I can believe. That's the first honest thing they've said. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers on both sides are believed to have been wounded or killed in Europe's deadliest war since World War II, although neither side publishes accurate casualty figures. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilians have also died as Russian forces have besieged and bombarded Ukrainian cities. Russian attacks killed at least 2 people, including a 9-year-old girl, Ukrainian officials said Saturday. The country's Air Force reported that Russian forces launched around 109 drones and 5 missiles overnight and into Saturday. It came after Andriy Yermak, a senior advisor to President Volodymyr Zelensky, announced on Friday that Kyiv is prepared to resume direct peace negotiations with Russia in Istanbul on Monday, but said the Kremlin must first deliver a promised memorandum outlining its stance on ending the more than 3-year conflict. Russia, which launched the war by invading its neighbor in 2022 and now occupies about a fifth of Ukraine, says it will not pause its assaults until conditions are met first. The Kremlin has demanded that Ukraine never join NATO, accept permanent neutrality between Moscow and the West, and cede its demand for 4 territories in the east of the country that Russia illegally annexed months after the war began. Kyiv says that is tantamount to surrender and would leave it defenseless in the face of future Russian attacks. Because, Kyiv are not a bunch of morons. Zelensky is not an idiot. I mean, Trump might think that that's reasonable, but he is, in fact, an idiot. But anyway, that is the last article I have for you. So I believe that is all I have for this video. And in that case, I will see you guys in the next one.